Hi guys, Kesenya here with the tarot reading for the upcoming full moon eclipse in Sag. So yeah, for those of you who are watching for the first time, my name is Kesenya and I'm a tarot reader at Kesenya's Moor Wellness Hub, hence the name of the channel. I'm a different Kesenya, not the Kesenya who is the astrologer of Kesenya Moor's channel. So for those of you who've been watching me recently, welcome. Good to see you back. And yeah, sorry, as many of you probably noticed, I needed to skip the reading for the new moon in Taurus. Sorry, Tauruses, and happy birthday for those Tauruses who had birthday while I was taking a small break. As you know, as a workaholic, I took too many jobs and I had all the deadlines coming, and then I was just burnt out and I didn't want to record a video having absolutely no energy to share with people and just like, force myself, because, when you don't enjoy what you're doing and you're forcing yourself, people can feel, and it never works. So what was the point? There was no point. But I'm back, and the thing that we're going to discuss today is the eclipse. So I definitely recommend you to go and watch the video which Kesenya and Joanna have recorded. It has the in-depth astrological analysis of the eclipse season we're about to enter. And I'm in no position to discuss that because I'm not an astrologist. So we will have a tarot perspective on this, then we'll have sign-by-sign reading as always. But nonetheless, eclipse season is upon us. I think that both eclipses are going to be very strong. And I think that the axis which is activated is also very interesting. The axis between Sagittarius and Gemini. So kind of between a scholar and philosopher, so to speak, and between the reporter and journalist, speaking in professional terms. And that's always a very interesting dialogue. So it's like watching an interview on YouTube, like, where you see a nice dialogue between a person who is asking questions like Gemini and a person who is responding like Sag. And so the full moon we're about to discuss, it's happening on the 26th of May. I'm gonna have the chart here as always. It is 26th of May. It is the full moon in Sagittarius and it is eclipsed. So the moon is at 5 degrees Sag. The sun is at 5 degrees Gemini. Sun has just entered Gemini by the time the eclipse occurs. And you know that the eclipses are happening in the signs which are hosting the lunar nodes. So basically the south node and the north node, they are those kind of certain points of the sky which, when being approximated by the moon or the sun, create solar and lunar eclipses. So on the 26th of May we'll have the full moon eclipse in Sag, and then the 10th of June would have the solar eclipse in Gemini. So very exciting. Generally speaking, you know that moon and the sun, the mythology of those two planets, they are aligned with the, like, whatever you prefer. I would use probably the concepts of Tao, of yin and yang, you know. So sun, it is all the things yang, so sun is bright and active, and sun is related to career and how we move in the world and how we present ourselves in the world. Moon is related to feminine, to passive, to watery, to dark concepts of femininity, so to speak, to yin, and that's more about our internal world and emotions. So I suppose that's how we can regard those two eclipses, very, very oversimplifying the matter. So as the eclipse which would trigger something internally, and then it would trigger something externally by the sun eclipse in Gemini, which makes to me perfect sense, because it's always first the internal shift and only then the external shift occurs. Yeah, because we usually, I mean, there is of course the moment which is exemplified by the Tower card in tarot, that it's a sudden change which comes upon you, like, you know, it is like a lightning striking you. But very often, especially I think when it is like, you know, some beneficial change, it is usually triggered by our awareness, but by our internal readiness to accept the change. Otherwise, if we are not ready, we can just miss the point and miss the opportunity. So lots of transits, as you can see on the chart, happening during this full moon eclipse. So basically the full moon is in Sag, and it is activated by the sun in Gemini, and together with the sun is Gemini, there is also Venus and Mercury. Mercury is in its own sign of Gemini. Mercury feels very comfortable. Jupiter would be at 1 degree Pisces. Jupiter feels very good in Pisces. He has just moved to the sign which he likes. It's like as if he's plunging into the deep, warm sea of the Pisces world. And so Jupiter is happy there. And Neptune is also in Pisces, squaring the Venus and the Mercury. Neptune is, I think, at roughly 22 degrees Pisces, and Venus and Mercury are something like 23, 25 of Gemini. So all those planets are involved, all those planets are conversing in their respective signs. But before we start the reading, what I actually wanted to talk today is that how I see this axis through tarot, yeah, because in astrology, what Sag is, Sag is our collective 9th house. So and the 9th house, it is the house of learning. It is the house of the quest for knowledge, of the upgrade, of all those big institutions like universities, mentors, big philosophical systems, beliefs, our principles, our moral concerns, and so on. And Gemini, it's our collective 3rd house. So it is the house of truth, it's the house of communication, of speaking up. But the tarot cards which are associated with those two signs, I think they provide a very interesting kind of contrast. Not even contrast, but explanation. Yeah, let's put it this way. So the card for Sagittarius is Temperance, and the card of Gemini is the Lovers. We'll talk about the Lovers a little bit more when we would be doing the new moon in Gemini reading in 2 weeks' time. But the interesting part of it, let's start with the Gemini. Yeah, the Gemini, it is a couple. Whether you take Gemini as Gemini representing the two principles, like here, like feminine and masculine, so the divine union, the unification, even the sign of Gemini, the mythology related to the sign of Gemini, that those are two Greek twins, Castor and Pollux, who were the warriors, who were the heroes, and they were put in the sky by Olympians, by the gods in ancient Greek mythology. Those are two people which implies the notions, of course, like exemplified by Gemini, the notions of communications, the notions to interact with someone who is not you, the necessity to speak in order to be heard and understood. And so the Lovers card, it is like, it is more like me and the others. Even when we just take it absolutely internally, it has still a very deep external projection, because ultimately, even if Gemini would be speaking of the internal change, it is with the idea that that's what would ultimately affect your relationship with the others. And that's very naturally our biggest human concern. We are social animals. We cannot live in total closure. If we do, if we are, I don't know, if we're hermits or monks, or if we're in the lockdown in Ireland, it is tough on us. And even the lots of writings of the already mentioned monks, hermits that were living alone in the deserts in Ethiopia, for example, or Syria. Lots of their religious writings is devoted to the discussion of how to deal with loneliness. As social animals, as products of society, we are very uneasy when we need to be excluded from the society. So that's the concern the Gemini expresses. That's even like, even internal transformation is ultimately meant at facilitating our relationship with the others, at like, at um, helping us to succeed in our social interactions. In this way, the Lover's card, although everyone is happy when you got it because it means that that's the card which would signify you internal love, marriage, and meeting Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. The thing is that the meaning of it is much broader. So it is about understanding, alignment, harmony. Harmony, I think, is a very much keyword for this card. And that's why the scale on which this couple is portrayed is truly epic. Yeah, so basically it is like Adam and Eve, and there are like, trees which are symbols of fertility, and all those like flowers and butterflies, and of course the angel, which means that the harmonious union is blessed by the divine, so it is a divine union. It's not simply about the intersexual relationship. So in a nutshell, Gemini, the Lover's card, there are only two elements. There are always two elements, either like brothers or sisters or like, people. So there is this notion of communication, which is triggered by this full moon. But the Sag card is Temperance. And Temperance is by default a very contemplative and a very solitary card. Seemingly, because it's also an illusion. And Temperance card, it is kind of like, when you compare it to the Lovers, it is the opposite of what the Lovers is about. The Lovers is a dynamic card. It is about like, it is about unification, it is about passion, it is about like, some activity in order to be understood, in order to shape this harmonic alliance, while the Temperance is very contemplative, it's very internal. Temperance, it's moderation. Temperance, it's meditation and contemplation. And Temperance, it is when we take our time, when we take things step by step, when we think. And so it is very much oriented on ourselves. But if you look at this card in more detail, you would see that despite its seeming meaning of being all about yourself and restraining yourself and knowing how to accept what's happening to you, having patience, not to speeding up, so like, be in this full control of your emotions, of your body. Still, this card contains a very expressive duality. So the whole idea of Temperance is that Temperance represents the alchemic process, because you see that the angel has two chalices from which, like, he is putting liquids into each other. And there are two rivers also. One river is the sun and one river is the moon. So the yin and yang duality is still preserved. And even if you look at the color of those rivers, of course they are colored in gold and silver, but we might remember another two liquids, and those are two liquids, it's water and blood, the two liquids which are in the vessel of our body, which are like, in relation to each other, which support each other. We can remember that when the lance has pierced the side of Jesus on the cross, blood and water poured forth, which was later interpreted as the sacraments of Eucharist, of communion, and of baptism. Both of them, like, the major sacraments of the church, having very deep spiritual transformative meaning of first transformation through baptism and then sustenance through the communion. And all this is implied in the Temperance card because it is about the alchemic process which happens within you. It is you mixing, so to speak, water and blood within you, and mixing the spiritual, the symbolic dimensions of how we understand water and blood. So basically through purification and through rebirth and health and nurture. The alchemy as a process is, of course, related to creation, because alchemy essentially it is, the search for the ability to transform any metal into gold. At the same time, of course, so it is first of all creation, then it is transformation, then it is purification, because gold was considered the purest of the metals, and so what you need to do is basically to purify the metal to extract gold from it. Chemically speaking, it is absolutely impossible, but that was the belief. And those are all very transformative processes within us. And so what is implied is that we start with the eclipse in Sag, and what it gives us. It gives us the full moon, which means the completion and the peak and the high degree, and it is intensified by this eclipse. You might want to look back and see what were you intending to do during the new moon and Sag in December 2020. And so to speak, the whole full moon, and I forgot to say that it's going to be super full moon, so it's very close to Earth. So what is happening is that it is intensified by the eclipse. It is given like, this sort of like karmic sudden dimension to the changes, and those changes, they are related to sparking all the notions, all the alchemical notions inside of you. So creativity. Through creativity, the energy, the passion, the fire, being a spark of the fire for the transformation. Those, I can't say which comes first, because when we feel creative, we transform, and then when we transform, we feel creative. And then ultimately for the total recomposition and rebalancing of elements within your body and soul. So, which means rebirth, which means renovation. So the gold is being created inside of you, like in the alchemic vessel, like in the alchemic retort. And ultimately, what is the result of this is that through this external change, it can have an impact on our Gemini side of the axis. So on our relationship with the others, on our ability to even like, to bring out the results of our transformation, our creativity for the benefit of the others. And also to change the others, to the change of ourselves, not to blank that would magically make people do whatever we want, but it is, we are all very, very tightly interconnected. So when you metamorphose inside, when you start treating people differently, when you start projecting a new you into the world, it can trigger the butterfly effect. It would affect your immediate surroundings. It would affect the way you deal with people, and people pay you back. So this has the promise of shaping new unions, bringing new opportunities. And especially since the sun eclipse in Gemini would be more related, as I said, to career, like, to careers, and the career is our way of changing the world. Yeah, that's our social gift. That's what we do as part of the society. We work, so we can change society through our work. And I think that's all very important. But nonetheless, I think that this eclipse is more mystical because it's the moon. Moon is always more mystical. It is more interesting because it's about to happen inside. It is absolutely beautiful because the Jupiter is in his sign, in his favorite sign. Mercury is in its favorite sign. And it is dreamy because Neptune is squaring Venus. Of course, this might have wider repercussions of a more negative character, but I think that the energy would be like, I think if you're ready, you'd enjoy riding this wave. I think that the energy of this full moon eclipse is very much like a big wave is coming. So if you're a surfer, if you know how to ride this wave, you would absolutely enjoy the travel. If you don't know, you might get covered and drown. I don't think you will. No, I don't know. I feel excited about this moon. It's in the fire sign. I feel it like fiery and passionate and deeply transformative, and with very deep, like, alchemic potential of changing ourselves and of helping us to release. Yeah, so coming back to the meaning of Sagittarius, it is this knight who looks for the Holy Grail. It is about the quest, it is about the adventurousness, it is about enjoying the ride, and being curious and not being afraid of entering the dark forest, because ultimately your experiences and your battle there would transform you, would make a new person out of you, would help you to see this grail, like, you would learn a lot. So if that's what you enjoy, if that's like, and I think if you're watching this video, that's what you're really enjoying, that you're a seeker, like, and Sagittarius, it's the sign of the seekers of truth, like, travelers, wandering knights, gypsies, all those things, all those people who are looking for more, like, it is the divine quest for learning, for seeking more, for unveiling things. So prepare, like, prepare, especially if you're of the mutable signs. So what is it like? This axis, Sag, Gemini, also Virgo and Pisces. If you're a mutable sign, I think you might be in how to say, you might be in for, like, radical change in your belief system, in how you see yourself, in what you want to learn, what you want to achieve, what you want to share, in searching for people to give you more information, in, like, finding your guru, like, okay, as you know, I'm not a big fan of guru. I'm on the what you say, on the Chinese, Japanese, Buddhism side of things, when they say, when you meet a Buddha and a guru, kill him, like, because you need to be your own teacher. But that's very much what the Sag is about, like, that you can have, like, mentors on your way, but ultimately you're your own teacher, because the quest is for you to take. That's your own journey, no one can help you. And that's very normal to have radical changes of, like, your philosophical systems, of belief systems, of the depth of your interaction with the world. And I also think that this would be all very organic. So it's not like a forced belief system where something happens and you're like, okay, I can't trust this anymore. I'm out. I think it would be an exciting and organic shift, that you would find some piece of information that you were lacking. You would say, oh, that's the piece of puzzle I was looking for. And I think that would be such a beautiful upgrade, such a beautiful kind of revelation. Even, like, when we look at it, the whole idea of this card is that we start on the notions of duality, of basically mixing gold and silver, mixing yin and yang, and mixing blood with water in those vessels, so coming up with new proportions and changing the whole through such. But the upper dimension of what we are creating is not limited to two colors. There's the colors of the rainbow, yeah? And the rainbow, it is this iridescence, the fullness of life, like, not two options, but the multitude of options. Not, this is my past, that's my work, that's how I'm supposed to be, but, like, I can be this and I can be that, and I can also do this. That's the kind of whole notion of creativity, like, knowing how to apply yourself in different ways to different dimensions, seeing yourself creatively, not as one big hole, but more like a fan. Like, when you open the fan, there are so many those, like, parts or feathers, or, like, those sticks with the pictures on them, but ultimately they make the whole picture, right, when you open it. So you can see, oh, I'm this part and that part and this and this and this, but nonetheless I'm a whole. I'm this big, beautiful fan of different personalities fitting into one. And that's also exciting. So I hope that you would be exciting about this eclipse. I think it's going to be very, very eventful. And let's have a look at what tarot have to say sign by sign. I see you there. Yeah, so the first, as always, would be the sign of the moon. So the first one is Sag. Sag, look, you are hosting the party, and you of course have the South Node. So you have the South Node. It's the South Node, as you know, that's the tail of the dragon. That's our collective destiny. That's our karmic and your individually karmic thing. So like, because it's in your sign, that's kind of like the node is working through you to purge, to let go, to really like, you know, change and accept the new path. So the cards that you got is Strength. Don't we all know? Don't we all need it? Eight of Swords, and Six of Cups. So that's very interesting because basically you got two eights, yeah? So you got the Major Arcana 8 and then you got the Eight of Swords, yeah? Strength card is the Leo card, so it's a nod from your fellow fire sign. And the interesting thing about this card is that actually there is an eclipsed moon here, so it speaks a little bit about what's about to happen. I think is that, as you can see, she has the 8 inside of her. And the whole idea of this card is that she is able to tame the lion exactly because she has this 8 inside. So she has external control. She's aligned with the eternity. She's aligned with destiny. And that's what pretty much what the eclipses is going to do to all of us, but I suppose to you, of course, massively, because it's happening in your first house. So it aligns you more to the destiny, and you would require the strength to tame this lion. So to tame all the lower concerns, all the like, you know, more mundane concerns with where you're supposed to go, like, you know, the eclipse would align you more with your destiny, with yourself, and provide you with the necessary strengths, because it kind of deepens us. It provides us with the necessary perspective to see the things in and how they're supposed to be, like, you know, because when you have this eternity inside, so it is like a divine seal inside of you, and when you have this, you have more wisdom not to stress about less important things, like this lion, like, you know, like it's not the animalistic reaction when you overreact, when you just like, you know, jump into this, when you are like, you know, when you act out of passion or out of like, you know, this kind of discomfort or something. You will have strength and patience and mercy to accept whatever is coming your way. And the need, the kind of like the recurrent topic for you, Sagittarius, is the topic of purging and releasing, because of the North Node. It's the Eight of Swords, you know, it is the card of being trapped. That's this card where a lady is surrounded by swords in the picture usually. And here it kind of like portrays this also with the four corners, the square. The square, it is the symbol of earth. It's the symbol of physical life, yeah, because earth has four corners. So the cross is the symbol of earth, of being reincarnated in flesh and blood. So when your life feels as a trap, like, you know, when you don't see the way out, there is this, the strength comes and gives you, like, you know, wisdom, and it kind of elevates you to the level of human from the level of the animal. And similarly here, like the bird has the ability to fly, so it is elevated. Compare it to the strap, and the strap, it is all things mundane, like, you know. So it gives you a necessary perspective to kind of like distinguish weeds from the good plants, like, you know, and to see things for what they truly are. And the interesting thing is that your last card is the Six of Cups. So cups It is the card basically of nostalgia, like, you know, it is the card of inner child, of like, you know, dreaminess that we would have, like, you know, this kind of childlike state of purity and nostalgia about your past. But like, that's, to be honest, this can play a trick with you, because in this regard, in relation to purging, to letting go, because full moon, it's always about letting go, because the moon starts waning after. But when it is with the eclipse, it is like 100 times so. And usually this card is very positive, but in relation to this dynamic, to this process, it can play a trick with you, because you wouldn't like to release something which needs to be released exactly because of this nostalgic feeling, because of sentimental feeling. So you'd be like, oh, like, I know I don't need it anymore, but like, I'm sentimentally attached to it. It is like, you know, kind of, you have this nostalgia when you think of getting rid of it. And don't let it blind yourself, like, you know, because the strength card is about decision. It is about being very decisive, and like, just cut it when you don't no longer need it. But yeah, if you don't have such concerns, it is a good card, because it is also a card of meaning that the strength can actually be provided by you looking back, by finding support and strength in your childhood, in your memories of the past, in those, like, you know, warm moments under the sun. And this can give you kind of the mental stronghold to face this process of escaping from the trap. So yeah, so I think that for you, Sagittarius, it's gonna be, of course, you would be very much affected by this full moon eclipse in your first house, but also, as I said, you're adventurous by nature, so you will be fine. I think that it would be ultimately a very interesting experience for you. Next one is Capricorn. Capricorn, Sag is your 12th house. Yeah, Sag is your 12th house of release. So you are kind of like very much in what I already was talking about Sagittarius. Sagittarius is releasing because it has the South Node, and because it has the eclipse. And you're releasing because the South Node and the eclipse is happening in your 12th house. So the South Node has been Capricorn for so long before it moved to Sag, but still, because it kind of moved to a 12th house, in a way the process continues for you there. I hope you don't hear it, but my neighbors, they're playing the most horrendous pop music. So if you hear all this, it's not me. I apologize. I have absolutely no control over that. Oh, Capricorn, look, yeah. 4 of Swords, meditation and rest. 7 of Wands, spiritual challenge. And the Wheel of Fortune. The wheel will turn for you, Capricorn. Yay! So, look, with the 12, I noticed, by the way, that with the 12th house events, when the events are happening in the 12th house, 4 of Swords comes very often, because I think it is just a reminder that if you want to kind of like, you know, to decide what you need to let go, to welcome the change which is heralded by this moon into your life, you need a moment of calmness for this. So if you can go to retreat, if you can change the scenery, you're very welcome. If that's retreat going to be your dreamland, if you would like to just, I don't know, to spend more time thinking and contemplating. And in general, this energy is very Sag, like, you know, because Sag is a philosopher. So if you would like to just, like, you know, go into your hermitage, you know, and spend some time there, just in meditation and prayer and thinking what you want to do, like, you know, it would all start making sense for you. And this retreat can also be for you in a way challenging, because you might realize that you really need this breakthrough, that you really need something to be changed. And Wands, yeah, Wands, it's fire. Wands is a suit of exactly what we're talking about in the introduction about Sag. So it is about creativity, it is about, like, you know, showing yourself to the world, applying your creative potential to new paths, like, you know. And in this regard, that's exactly what's happening. In general, Seven of Wands, it is a challenging card. It can mean the conflict, but I like this card in this deck. I can't help it. I think it is so charged with energy, and I take it as the card of the ultimate breakthrough. Yes, there is a challenge, because visually, when we are encircled, kind of like when we are surrounded by something, it is an obstacle for our movement. So it is a point of discomfort. But look, this man, he has his, on his solar plexus, on his heart, like, you know, and has a bright star, and he has the seventh wand. So he made this obstacle into his magic wand, and the lion has awakened inside of him, like, you know. So it is this, go listen to the introduction, because I think that what I was talking about in the introduction is very similar to the energy of this card. So it is finding your internal source of light and of creativity, and bringing it forth, and just, like, you know, making this lion jump through whatever fence is there. And then the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune is Jupiter. Jupiter at the time of eclipse will be at 1 degree Pisces. Jupiter would be squaring the sun and the moon, because Jupiter is at 1 degree, and sun and moon are at 5 degrees Gemini Sagittarius. So, like, you know, it is squaring within 4 degrees orb, but it feels comfortable in its own sign. It is involved into the sun and the moon, the two main actors of the eclipse. And I suppose if it came into your reading, it is a promise of luck coming in your life, and that really you can face very deep, like, expansions, expanding in their nature, I don't know. So I think that the Jupiter can affect greatly the change which is about to come for you. And in general, the Wheel of Fortune, you know what I'm always saying, the wheel is rotating, things are changing, the fates are changing, the fate is never stable. That's why I'm not a big believer of future prediction, to a certain extent, you know, to a certain extent. But I think that then the wheel might turn, and other actors can come into place. So things are changing for you, Capricorn. Just be sure to take your some time with yourself, and to think of what you need to release, and what is the direction which you want to go, and how you can use your obstacles in your own favor. Next one is Aquarius. Aquarius, for you, it's happening in your 11th house of your social networks. And actually it is Aquarius, that's your house, because you are our collective 11th house. Okay, you got 7 of Cups, multiple possibilities and opportunities. You got Ace of Pentacles, new beginnings. 10 of Wands, responsibilities. Aquarius, I suppose life has been tough on you since the whole stellium moved to Aquarius. From the Aquariuses that I know, lots of change, lots of, like, you know, absolutely unexpected things, lots of challenges. But those challenges are challenging you to become just a different person, to give birth to a new you, like, you know, to just, like, accept that the changes are for your benefit, you know. And 7 of Cups, that's pretty much what it speaks about. 7 of Cups, it's multiple opportunities. That's what you need to embrace, that, like, you know, perhaps certain limitations were taken, perhaps your life situation has been shaken quite a bit, but focus not on the losses, but on what you gained from it. And what you gained from it is the ultimate freedom, because the ultimate freedom, who has the ultimate freedom? Homeless people, gypsies, and so on. I mean, yes, I'm speaking of archetypes, I'm not speaking of the social problems, like, you know, but more like, you know, of like literary cliche, if you will. And when you are kind of like deprived of everything, that's when internally you're the freer, because nothing ties you to anything, and you're free to choose. This card is very cautious because you need to choose wisely. But again, I think that the eclipse has this potential because it's happening in the sign of philosopher to give you, like, you know, some wise download of which path to choose. And ultimately you would have your new beginning, you would have your Ace of Pentacles, and the beginning is very material, like, you know, it is not the beginning in your head, it is the beginning in real life. So it can be like, although I think Sag is a philosopher, Sages, they're very driven to mundane, like, you know, transformation and success. So I hope you will get this portion of their energy, and that you would get, like, you know, this new beginning which has very tangible, very material results. Maybe those would be new beginnings related to something that Sagittarius plays, like, you know, in the what Sagittarius is related to. So, like, you know, to institutions, to higher learning, to, like, you know, to creativity, to creative arts, to, like, you know, crafts and so on. And because happening in your 11th house of networks and friends, maybe, like, you know, reach out to your friends and to your colleagues and so on to get the idea of what this new beginning might be in your life. Like, you know, maybe they would be agents of this new beginning in your life. And then 7 of Wands, the new beginning, the gift comes with a price, and this price is a big responsibility. So I think that I know it myself because I'm a Capricorn stellium, and there was a big stellium in Capricorn. I think that this is like a serious talk, especially when you have Saturn in your sign. There's like a talk with like, you know, your grandfather who's telling you, I'm not buying this bullshit, all those like parties and all this grandpa pay for my, like, you know, new phone or something. You're an adult, you take all the responsibility for your life now. It's like no one there is only you, that's your responsibility now. So it is this maturing, it is this adulting up, but at the same time, I like that this picture, this card in this deck, it gives kind of like a hope that there is this bear. The bear, it's like, you know, the bear is the support, the bear is the spirit animal. So it is the responsibility, it is a shared responsibility. You take the full responsibility, but as an adult, you can delegate to the others. You can share your responsibility with the others, especially if it's happening in such a social house, which is your house, which is like the 11th house. It is all the values of your sign, of what you value. So if you're unsure, and 7 of Cups implies being not sure of which role to take, have a concilium, consult the others, share this responsibility with the others, and face the new beginning which might come one way or the other, with the help of people in your environment. For sign Pisces, Pisces, you have a party. Jupiter moved to you. Jupiter is squaring the Moon and Sun at 5 degrees Sagittarius and Gemini. And Neptune at 22 degrees is squaring Venus and Mercury in Gemini. So all your planets, all the planets that you're hosting, are aspecting the big players of this lunar eclipse, and at the same time the moon, both of the planets, Jupiter and Neptune, they love to be in your house. They love to be in your house, and they're very comfortable there. Yeah, so everything is very aligned. You got the same card as Aquarius got, 10 of Wands, responsibility. You got also 9 of Cups, fulfillment of wishes. You got 3 of Wands, the creative growth. As I was speaking briefly in the introduction, all mutable signs are going to be affected by this eclipse. And so Pisces, the light is on you, you know. When the light is on you, it comes with the big responsibility always. We can take responsibility for our life because we know that a lot of is asked from us at this moment. And I think that that's how you would feel with all your planets in your sign kind of supporting you. It's like you know, it's like a family gathering, and at the same time all those planets involved in, like, you know, the axis of Gemini and Sagittarius, which is activated by the lunar eclipse. That's kind of like, you know, your time to play big. That's your time to gamble. And you don't gamble just, oh, let me put all my money on black, like, you know. No, when you want to successfully gamble, you gamble wisely and responsibly. So you might feel that the pressure on you has increased. The pressure on you has increased. You have much more tasks at hand. You have the increased responsibility. You know that the stakes are high, and that you need all your wisdom and all your, like, you know, inner composture, kind of like, to know how to act. But I think you would know how to act, because, like, you know, Nine of Cups is it's the water card of, it's a water card. It is your card, like, you know, you will get this wisdom because you're naturally very wise. And like Jupiter, it's also, Jupiter is the head of the Olympic gods. So Jupiter, Zeus, he's like, you know, he's a wise protector. Neptune is related to the depth of the ocean, like, you know, and both of them, they're heavy planets, they're big planets, they're slow planets. And so you have their support, like, you know, of the wisdom of the sun, and the wisdom of the kind of like the wisdom of heaven, yeah, of Jupiter, and the wisdom of the depth of the ocean. So you are now in the kind of primary league, and you know how to play big, you know how to be responsible, and through this you can you know how to put the stake on the right field and how to win big. And you know it because of who you are, because of how you're supported in your watery nature now by those planets, how, like, you know, how comfortably you might start feeling, and how you're aligned. Looking at the visual of this card, how everything is aligned, like, you know, how she's picking those like lotuses, and there are butterflies, and all this pyramid of cups, and the Holy Spirit on top with heart. You're so aligned, you're harmonious inside, like, you know, you're spiritually harmonious, you're harmonious in your heart, you're harmonious in your emotions. So fulfillment of wishes. And I think you would get such a big boost from this fiery eclipse, fiery lunar eclipse, squaring the planets in you, squaring the Jupiter which you're hosting, and you will get your Three of Wands. This is like, you know, those are the seeds growing. Look at how jubilant this card is, how it is charged with energy, how it is joyful, like, you know, it is absolutely amazing. So you would see the results of your hard work growing, like, you know, expanding, and you would get supercharged. I think that's absolutely beautiful. Very, very important message for you, Pisces. Good luck with it. Yeah, Pisces, by the way, I forgot to say that the eclipse, that's your 10th house of career. I think so. The advice to play big is probably related to your career primarily. Next one is Aries. Aries, for you, that's your 9th house, because you're our collective first house. So personally, you follow all the houses according to the signs which they represent. So for you, it is related to all things Sagittarius, naturally to higher learning, to your belief system, to your philosophy system, to your attitudes to life, and so on. So let's see what you got. You got the Sagittarius card. Four of Pentacles, Temperance, that's your Sagittarius card, and Eight of Wands. So the eclipse is happening in your fellow or fire sign. because you got the Temperance card, I suggest you go listen to the introduction, because I was discussing the card in detail there. So in case you might find something more, I don't know, in-depth information for this, for you to utilize. Four of Pentacles, it's Sun in Capricorn. That's usually the card of, like, you know, sitting very tight on your finances, or if we speak, sitting basically very tight on something. So, like, you know, holding it, holding your position, being afraid to move on, being afraid to spend, being afraid to, like, you know, change anything, because you're like, okay, I have my small salary, I have this tiny house, that's mine, I need to protect it, I need to sit upon it, like, you know. So this card is often associated with, like, you know, avarice or like greediness. And but in this deck, this card is very different, because although there are like those four corners of stability, you can see that this kind of, like, you know, this frame, instead of sitting on this kind of like on this bare minimum of stability, rather you can interpret it as offering you a foundation in order to pursue something bigger, you know. Because you got Sagittarius here, the card, and it speaks of alchemy, like, you know, and which I will talk about in a minute. Swan, it is one of the alchemic birds. It represents the stage. So there are like two stages, there are like a few stages, but like the first stage is the stage of black. It's like Nigredo, I think it is called. And then the next stage in alchemy, in the, like, you know, war kind of transformation of the metal, is the white stage, which is represented by the swan. So it is this level of alchemical purification. Sun is shining brightly. So if you were afraid to go for it, go for it, because Sag is very dynamic, Sag is brave, and Sag is a philosopher. And I think with this philosophic attitude to life, you just know that you need to try. You wouldn't know unless you try. And then you got the Temperance. At the Temperance is Sagittarius. So Temperance speaks of moderation, of patience, of not taking rush decisions or rush steps. At the same time, it is speaking of very deep internal transformation. So for you, because it is happening in the ninth house of, like, you know, higher learning and like belief systems and so on, this moon can be very transformative. And you know that the action of the full moon lasts for about 6 months to come. So have your eyes peeled and see, but more like register what's happening inside, how like these energies unfold, play out in your soul. Because what this card means, and I'm going to say one sentence because I was speaking about this card for like, I don't know, 15 minutes in the introduction, go check it, that it is the internal recombination of elements. So kind of like the alchemic recomposition of elements of, like, you know, fire and blood, or like here, like from two different chalices, one chalice is of silver, another chalice is of gold. It is this kind of recombination, recomposition of what's inside of you, which is projected outside, like, you know, which becomes rainbow, which becomes those colorful wings on which you can fly. So yeah, and as if to just put the final full stop under this message, you got the Eight of Wands. Eight of Wands, it's a very electric card. It's a card of action. So you are making the step from the, like, you know, from the fear of losing what you have and the idea that what I have is enough, while it is never enough. You're invited to take the step through the alchemic transformation, and then just, like, you know, to act, to get this drive, to get this creativity, to get this spark of fire inside in order to achieve your goal. So aim at what you need, to get. In this deck, what is here, it looks like a dartboard. Okay, there's a heart at the center of it, but it is a dartboard, and as if you're like throwing 8 darts or 8 like lightnings into it. Traditionally, this card would just portray 8 wands flying through the air. Someone casts them and is hoping to reach the goal through, like, you know, casting them. So I think this is this card is very active. This card is highly ambitious. So I guess you are in store for some. You are kind of like you're destined to something big, like, you know, if you think, or if your Aries, like Aries is a very active, if you think that it's been too quiet, too kind of stable recently, I think things are gonna speed up and be shaken very, very quickly. Next one is Taurus. Taurus, I'm sorry, I missed the reading in the new moon in Taurus. Happy birthday, Taurus. And sorry for that. Yeah, I was telling that I was very busy. But look, the eclipse is happening. The eclipse on the 26th of May is happening in your 8th house. And 8th house is the house of Scorpio. It's the house of transformation, of the occult, of hidden knowledge, of also financial gains, for the reasons that I don't understand. But because I take it as a Scorpio house, I take it like, you know, I take it as Hades, like Hades, the, you know, the underworld of the zodiac cycle. And when you go down to, like, you know, to Hades, like Ulysses did in Homer's Ulysses, and you return to the surface of the earth fully transformed. Can't believe you got a Scorpio card, you got death. That's the 8th house, right? Yeah. So I kind of already discussed this card even before we got it. 7 of Wands. Capricorn also got this card. We will see what Virgo gets. We will see what Virgo would get. I think that Capricorn got this card. Someone differently did. And 6 of Wands. So yeah, Scorpio card in a Scorpio house. So the transformation is unavoidable. And you know what to do, because is it the axis? I'm trying to think of it. Would it be the axis? Oh no, Taurus. Okay, I'll think of it the other day. I can't remember now. Oh no, I'm gonna have a look and I'll be back. I'm back. Yes, I checked on the internet. Yes, it is your 7th house. It's your house of... So you know what to do. You know what to do, because this is your axis. This is your axis, Taurus, Scorpio. And Sagittarius is your 8th house, of course. And Scorpio is your 7th house, which makes total sense. So, yeah. A very transformative eclipse. Eclipse is like little death in general, I suppose. It is the death of the planet, sort of like, you know, the planet is eclipsed, the planet is challenged. So it is the darkness which covers the light, like, you know, which covers the celestial body of the full moon. But the thing is that it really would give you a chance, if you are into something, if you have been wondering when to do, I don't know, past life regression, just some shadow work, all the kind of like practices related to, like, you know, kind of I don't know, not the mortification, of course, but a massive release, to be honest, like, you know, kind of celebrating the death of something within you and welcoming the space which it gives you. And then, of course, the Phoenix is also here, because death is always with the rebirth and with the cycles of the moons, and with the Egyptian goddess Nate, who is the goddess of the night sky, you know. So that's her body, like, you know. So it is on a cosmic dimension, the death and rebirth, the transformation, the darkness challenging light in your house of death and rebirth. So yeah, And the full moon is all about release. The full moon is traditionally about release, and it is intensified by the what you call it, by the eclipse. So it is like, you know, it is really symbolic death and rebirth. So if that's something you'd like to go through, you're very welcome to do that. It's going to be challenging. 7 of Wands, it is a card of the challenge, but in this deck it is also the card of awakening, the challenge which leads to your awakening. And in this regard, it continues the topic of the death which leads to your rebirth, to your renovation of the spirit. And this one, it is like, you know, reawakening through the challenge. So the idea of this card is that the wands, the fiery wands, they're like the barrier, you know, they're like an obstacle on your way. But essentially what this man does is that, pushing his palm on the heart, he takes one of those wands and he rises it as his magic staff, you know, and the lion is roaring. It is very energetic, very, very, like, you know, sun infused card, which is exactly what we're having, like, you know, kind of this resurgence of energy, resurgence of fire energy. And then you got, once again, you actually got a ton of wands. So you got death, and you got 7 of wands and 6 of wands, and 6 of wands is the card of triumph. So you would be subjected to probably, and I'm not saying it's going to happen on the 26th of May, the thing, you know, the eclipse is playing for 6 months to come, but you will be subject to some, like, you know, experience which might play in your life in the terms of death and rebirth and challenge and awakening through challenge. But you will escape triumphant. You know, you would not escape, you would need to go through it, but the outcome would be triumphant. 6 of Wands, it's the card of triumph, it's the card of ascension, it's the card of victory. Victory it is. Those cards, they are somehow very pretty, I think. And next one is Gemini. Gemini, you are, yeah, so if you haven't watched the introduction, you might want to do so, because we were talking about Gemini and Sag at the beginning. And the thing is that the eclipse, obviously the full moon, is triggered by the sun, which is in Gemini by the time of the eclipse at 5 degrees. Mercury and Venus are in Gemini. Mercury is your ruling planet, and it loves to be in Gemini, and so it supports you. It also supports, I suppose, Virgo, because Mercury is also ruling Virgo, and it feels good, so it is kind to everyone. But that's the eclipse for you to prepare. You are next. The eclipse, the solar eclipse in Gemini, would happen on the 10th of June. So I advise you to use this eclipse as an opportunity to prepare for the eclipse in your first house. Well, as I was telling, I think the eclipse would be beautiful and very positive and very charged and very active. You got the Princess of Cups, that's sort of new beginnings in emotional life. You got the Star, that's Aquarius, that's hope. And Prince of Wands can be Sagittarius, by the way. So those three, they kind of come together as a story, you know, because let me do it, because there is a princess and there is a prince and there is the star, so there is the hope between them. And if you go and listen to the introduction, that's pretty much what I was telling, that that Gemini is always about the two. And in fact, Gemini is lovers in tarot. So when you have a prince and a princess, that's sort of like the union of young people unified by the star, because star, it's harmony, star, it's alignment, star, it's the divine in kind of coming into your life. So I don't know, like, we can interpret, of course, as the beginning of the new kind of like love life or the new aspect of your relationship. So something related to your love life, especially because Princess of Cups independently, it means princesses, kind of like princes and princesses, they're young, like, you know, it's the new beginning in emotions, new beginning in love. So quite probably the stuff in your relationship. Keep in mind that of course this reading is very general, and it's just like, you know, it wouldn't show what's happening in your life because you have your own chart. But in whatever you take, there is definitely this kind of like harmonious aspect of the male and the female, whether it is your relationships or whether it is inside of you, like, you know, just kind of reaching the harmony, feeling loved, feeling harmonious, feeling hopeful, feeling aligned with your destiny. And yeah, so Princess of Cups, she is about the uh, renewal of your emotional state, renewal also of your emotional connections with the others, because after all the eclipse is happening in your 7th house. And Prince of Wands, he's very creative, and I think we already had many wands in this reading. I think pretty much every sign so far got some wands, because it is the fire eclipse, it is in the fire sign, and the primary transformative energy of this eclipse is to give us more creativity, like, you know, give us the creative impulse. And that's what Prince of Wands is. That's why he has even a magic wand, because he's a creator. He changes the world around him. And both of those cards kind of like, you know, more like masculine and creative side, more internal and feminine side. And that's pretty much like, you know, what's happening between you and your 7th house. So Sun is in Gemini, Moon is in your 7th house in Sagittarius. They're gonna lunar and solar eclipses, like, you know, kind of starting the eclipse season. So it is the internal transformation which leads to the external transformation. So that's pretty much your work to do, like, you know, watch the introduction again, I implore you. But because I think the both eclipses are kind of so well aspected and so wanted and so welcome, it is ultimately for the whole benefit, like, you know, of yourself, and I suppose of everyone, because the star is Aquarius. The star is so what for you, Aquarius, it is what your it is your fellow sign. I have the circle open now because there is I lack the abilities of visualization. So let me see. To Gemini. So it is your 9th house, yeah? Yeah. No. That's your first. Taurus is your 12th. Pisces is your 10th. Yeah. So Aquarius is your 9th house. And actually 9th house collectively is Sagittarius, yeah? So it all involves around those topics which are related to Sagittarius, you know. So yeah, divine wisdom and, like, you know, a more balanced, more, I don't know, wise philosophical approach to life. And things will start getting harmonizing in your relationships. That's kind of how it feels, because the eclipse in your 7th house, it would purge what doesn't need to be there, and it would harmonize the rest. Jupiter and Pisces is squaring the Sun and the Moon in Gemini and Sag. So, and Jupiter is about harmonization. Jupiter is a benefactor, you know. I hope you don't hear those pop music. I'm sorry, it's just playing and playing. Cancer. So the eclipse is happening in your 6th house. as we said. And yeah, and you came into your own reading, which I think is always a very good sign, because I think that when the tarot card of a particular zodiac sign comes into the reading, it means that the event will bring you into a better alignment with yourself. The sixth house is a house related to, first of all, your health, and then your routine, so your career, your everyday life. And you got the Chariot. The Chariot by default is the means of transportation, it's a vehicle, so this can bring you very far. The eclipse would actually speed you up, like, you know, if you were comparing that you're just like sitting on the shore waiting for something to come, your ship is sailing towards you, like, you know. But you also got two fives. Fives, it's a challenging number in tarot. Both cards are challenging. The Five of Cups speaks of emotional disappointment, feeling burnt out, feeling not stimulated, feeling like, you know, disappointed, lost, like, you know, emptied. And the Five of Swords, it is more about verbal conflicts. Yeah, it is kind of about mental challenges and verbal conflicts, especially in the sixth house, maybe even like with your colleagues, with people who are like your immediate surroundings on your everyday routine basis. I don't know, maybe I should say it just in case, because the both fives came into your reading, into your what you call it, health house. Maybe actually, if you've been experiencing some troubles with health, maybe it is your chance to actually harmonize it, because the Chariot, it is a deeply harmonizing card. The Chariot has two horses united by the reins of the charioteer, like, you know. And the charioteer, in as an archetype, it is a very important figure, because the charioteer brings the warrior to the battle, so it is like his companion. It is like, you know, he backs up the hero. So this aspect of the charioteer, it is something that the universe has your back ultimately. So if you've been experiencing troubles with your health, that's your chance to improve it, to kind of like see some tangible results through, like, you know, taking some action in this direction. And just be aware, like, you know, of like that the eclipse might be absolutely overwhelming, but after the loss, which 5 represents, 6 entirely represents the triumph. It represents overcoming the challenge. So if you find yourself in a challenging position now, the eclipse would act as a catalyst for you to start moving away from those. So if you suddenly would feel like, you know, somehow down, or like, you know, focusing more on your losses than of what you actually have, the eclipse is here to shift your perspective, to change your attitude, for you to see clearly, and also avoid all the conflicts, because the eclipse is happening in fire sign. The moon is eclipsed. Cards don't lie. There might be the situation of the trigger, of the verbal trigger, especially with the others, but the thing is just to avoid those, to move from them, and to keep moving into the direction which you see for yourself. So, but I don't know, this really kind of I wanted to voice it because it came into my head that something like primarily related to health. So if you experience health issues, I think that the eclipse might actually be this transit which would help you to move from the negative experiences and actually kind of like take this chance to fix your health, like you would take the reins of the horses if you were driving a chariot. Next one is Leo. Leo, for you, the eclipse is happening in your 5th house of romance and creative self-expression. The 5th house is in your fellow fire sign. So look, let's see what the cards have in store for you. you got the Prince of Wands. This can be you. Knight of Cups. And the Ten of Swords. No gonna be hard, but it's gonna be the culmination. Recently, all the readings for Leos were very hard, to be honest, were very intense. Leo, you're going through something. Prince of Wands, it can be Leo, Sag, or Aries. So it can be you. And because I go listen to the introduction, because my main point during the introduction was that because Sagittarius is related to the Temperance, major arcana in tarot, Temperance, it is the card of the alchemical, like, you know, transformation and the change, and the kind of internal change which triggers the external change by means of creativity. So the creative spark inside of you, your spirit which is raising high, it allows you to go even through the troubles of life kind of like easier, like, you know. And the fire energy is definitely amplified during this eclipse, so I think it's going to be, like, you know, something to provide you some support. And all the prince, it's the same as page, so it is young energy. It usually means new beginnings. And this Prince, as you can see, he's a very young person. He has a magic wand with the sun, with the lion. It's you, the sun, it's your ruling planet. And the magic wand has this flower, what you call it, sunflower. That's actually exactly the way you call it. So somehow I take this card as a kind of like call to finally respond to the responsibility of taking the reins of your life and taking control over your life. And even if the circumstances are not favorable for doing so, inside of you, through the, like, you know, through the resurgence of your creative energy, you can do it. Because if your spirit is energized, if you feel the creativity, then basically there are no obstacles for you. And that's what the Prince of Wands is here to tell you. Knight of Cups can be Pisces, Scorpio, or Cancer. And Knight of Cups, again, all knights are very dynamic. Knights are about movement, and if knights don't represent people, they represent changes. They represent information coming your way. They represent sudden shifts. And the emotional sudden shift, I suppose that's exactly what you need in your 5th house, related to your romance and self-expression. And both of those cards, like, you know, first of all, both of them are very masculine, because they're represented by the masculine figures, which is good, because masculine energy, archetypically speaking, it is more stable, it is more grounded. So make sure to ground yourself, and from this grounding, to find your source of creativity, to find your source cups of fire, like, you know, something that would energize you. Maybe the eclipse would actually open your eyes as to where it lies, this source for emotional shift and for creative rejuvenation, for the renewal of your internal fire, like, you know. And Ten of Swords in this deck, the energy of this card is very similar to the Tower card. So it speaks of the kind of lightning going through your body, of big shifts to which you need to be ready to respond, of the kind of new vision of things striking you, and maybe even clearing your sight in order to see where to go. It might be very uncomfortable, but usually Ten of Swords, that's kind of the last challenge before the breakthrough. You know, usually it would be kind of a dying figure pierced by 10 swords, but what it means is that the next step after this symbolic death, it's always the rebirth. That's kind of, I know you have very little energy to go through all of this, but the eclipse moon would actually give you this energy, like, you know, it would actually show you that there is hope, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I suppose that would provide you with the strength to go through the challenge of the Ten of Swords, through all those like fires piercing your body. But ultimately, this would transform you. And because you wouldn't be the same, it would be easier for you to start moving in the new direction. So hold on there, Lions. It will be fine at the end. Next one is Virgo. Virgo, for you, the for you, that's your fourth house. So Sagittarius is your fourth house of home, of your legacy that you inherited from your parents, of your siblings, of your family. And so the eclipse is happening there. The transformative energy of the eclipse will be somehow related to your notions of home, to where your home is. So let's see what the cards have to tell you about this. So Virgo, you got Queen of Wands, Ten of Swords as well, and Five of Cups. So how you might feel. Okay, Queen of Wands, she can be a Sagittarius, Aries, or Leo. So actually, I think we're almost done with the reading. So I think pretty much all of the signs got one of the other cards of the Wand suit, because Wand suit, it is the fire suit. So the fire energy is really pumping high. Queen of Wands is, look at how beautiful this card is. She's kind of the queen. She's the most bold queen. She's the bravest queen. She's a fierce queen. She's a very creative queen. She is brave. She knows what she's entitled to, and she goes for it. Very independent, very sassy. And you can see here that if you look at it, she has the Bridget's cross. That's the cross which in Ireland is done for Imbolc, for the 1st of February, the festival of Saint Bridget. That's her cross. And Saint Bridget, she's as such related to the Irish goddess Brigid, who was the goddess of like poetry and of craftsmanship and of medicine, something that Virgo might very much appreciate. And you see she has like animals tamed, so the leopard, the panther, and the lion, like, you know. So it is also she has this ability to tame like, you know, wild animals around her through her fierceness, because they are no peers for her. So I suppose, I don't know, it came into my mind in relation to so many signs today that it is kind of the ultimate call to take responsibility for your life, to actually feel like you're in full power, in full control. In such, I think this eclipse is going to be very empowering. So you come into this position, even if it's related to your home, that it is you who decide. You decide where you want to live. You decide how the relationship within your household is going to be for you. You decide of the position you're going to take in your house. And the position, it would be no less than a royal position. And this realization, it might cause lots of discomfort, because Five of Cups, it is the feeling of emotional emptiness. And maybe by this time you maybe it came because there were feelings of uneasiness, of feeling uncomfortable in the place where you are, of like, you know, not finding enough of source at the local place, at the place where you are. But the moon would come and electrify you. And Leo just got the same card, so kind of like Leos and Virgos somehow riding very similar boats during this eclipse. But this card, it is like, you know, it is this lightning going through your body, and probably it comes from the fact that the level of discomfort reach certain point, so there is no kind of like going back. And so what's happening is that you are facing it, you are facing the problem, and the impact of this confrontation is probably absolutely devastating, because 10 of swords, especially in this deck, it is a very electric card. It is the card which is all like, you know, infused with this fiery energy, which is like piercing your body up to the moment that it becomes intolerable. But it is this transformation through big challenge. I already told this to Leo, I will repeat now, that the 10 of swords in its energy is very similar to Tower. So it is a card of sudden change, of absolutely unpredictable change, which nonetheless would bring you further to this position. And I think that's very appealing to Virgos, because Virgos love to be in control, and Virgos love to be independent and be of service to the others. And Queen of Wands, she's very brave, and she's very, like, you know, sassy and fierce. So this is pretty much the goal where you need to go. And by the time you will reach it, yes, there are going to be challenges, but I think that sometimes it is important to be in the situation of loss and the situation of discomfort, because it is only by our desire to escape this discomfort, that we agree to make changes in our lives. Because when we're in full comfort, we never progress. We are happy with our surroundings. We are happy with what we have. It is only when we face the lack in the situation is the catalyst of the events to unfold. When there is no lack, there is no movement, you know. So yeah. Oh, but like, I'm not surprised, by the way, because as I was speaking in the introduction, the axis Gemini Sagittarius affects Pisces and Virgos stronger than the others, because that's the cross of the mutable signs. And so for you, Virgo, of course, it is gonna be a big moon, a powerful moon. So and deeply transformative. Next one is Libra. Libra for you, Sag. It is your 3rd house. Gemini house, her house of oh, cool, house of communication, of speaking your truth, of finding your truth, what's most important. Will be very logical passage, I think, from what we're talking about with Virgo, because your first heart is the 3 of Swords. That's the loss, that's the lack, that's the heartbreak. And then Queen of Pentacles, and then the Hierophant. So you might find yourself, similarly to Virgo and to Cancer, Cancer also got 5 of Cups, in the position of lacking something. Because it is in the house of communication, maybe you will find yourself in the position that you feel misunderstood, that you feel like misunderstood, that it is heartbreaking that the communication fails, that people around you don't understand you the way you would like to be understood. But the hope of the 3 of Swords is that the heartbreak usually serves as the foundation, as the kind of like this blood spill from which, like, you know, something would bloom. So the spilled blood provides a nurturing. It is like, you know, it is kind of the blood of the Eucharist, like, you know, it is in a very Christ-like sense, that and actually the iconography of this card, the heart pierced with 3 swords, it reminds the Catholic icon, you know, of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, when Jesus would have a heart here pierced with swords. So it is this purifying sacrifice, self-sacrifice. So the blood which is pouring from the pierced heart during the heartbreak is the kind of ultimate medicine for which purifies yourself, which allows you to build something new and better. And you never know, actually, that sometimes the heartbreak is even welcome, because we know that unless we go through the heartbreak, we cannot evolve, we cannot go further. But your next cards, they're both of earth energy, because the Queen of Pentacles, she is a Capricorn, Taurus, or Virgo, and the Hierophant, he is Taurus. So whilst you go through this, you will find your heaven, your peaceful heaven. You will find your source of stability. You would be grounded finally. And the Queen of Pentacles, she's just the queen of the material world, of like crystals and plants and fruit. She is ready to collect her harvest. She rules not somewhere in the, like, you know, in the ethereal realms. She rules here on earth. She's very, like, you know, mundane. She's very world oriented. She's world minded, which is good sometimes, like, you know, because it allows you to achieve your goals and to achieve like worldly success. And the Hierophant, he is Taurus, and the Hierophant is actually related also to the notion of learning, of religion, of philosophical belief systems, very similarly to what Sagittarius in astrology represents. Because Sagittarius is a philosopher. Sagittarius is about like building your belief system and finding your place within, like, you know, so many spiritual advice and spiritual learning that we are offered these days. So Queen of Pentacles provides you with this foundation and with this clarity, because when you're grounded, when you're very calm, very quiet, when all your needs are kind of like, when all your needs are administered to, then you find yourself in the position to build something spiritual on a more, on this ground, or on the grounds of stable foundations of your life. I don't know, maybe a person who's Virgo, Taurus, or Capricorn, maybe it's all speaking of the Taurus, because Taurus is here, and maybe you will get help from someone. But the Hierophant figure is also the teacher figure. It can be even like it can, because it is in the house of words, third house, the house of communication of words. Maybe it is even referring to like counseling, or basically a very good conversation, I would say, with probably not with a relative, but maybe from a kind of like more distanced and like older and wiser figure, like the priest or a mentor or a teacher, who would kind of show you the way where to go. In any way, this eclipse, it seems like it is offering for you a big potential for growth. It might originally break your heart, but ultimately this would bring you so much benefit from what happened. And as I said, we don't think that that's all gonna happen on May 26th. The fateful events of the eclipses, they are for 6 months to come to unfold. So you might want to see what are the disappointments that you're facing, what are the painful moments, how your body responds to it, and how you heal it. Because also, of course, the Queen of Pentacles, she can be Virgo, and Virgo is a healer, you know, and she's all surrounded with plants and crystals, so with all the media of alternative healing, you know. And in any way, I think, Libra, you are getting an advice to ground yourself, to kind of, you're invited to ground yourself through this eclipse, and to find the very stable and solid basis on which you would build, like, you know, kind of, you don't build castle on the sands, yeah, you build castles on a stable ground. And last but not least, Sagittarius. Well, not Sagittarius, I'm really sorry, Scorpio. Scorpio, so for you, Sag is your second house. Your second house of self-value, of the finances, and I'm trying to think, what are the other meanings of the second house? Primarily finances, career as well, work, and I love somehow the notion of self-value. I really love it. Just get the last card for you. Cool. So you got the High Priestess. That's very cool. You also got the Prince of Wands. I think that, I don't know, I think that half of the signs today got the Prince of Wands. Prince of Wands is Sagittarius, so that's very clear. And the Three of Cups. Bliss, reunion with friends. So I think all the cards just speak for themselves, to be honest. I very often associate the High Priestess with Scorpio. Although Scorpio is the death card in Major Arcana, the High Priestess is the moon card, and Scorpio is this, and she is the lady of the occult. Even in this deck, she has this kind of gothic entourage, you know, around her. So Scorpio, it can be a very intuitive moon for you. It can be a moon in which, like, you know, you might get some very precious downloads in your dreams or in your meditations or in whatever practices you're feeling inclined to do, like, you know. So because of this, I would definitely suggest for you to be very serious about this moon. Maybe do, like, you know, some small ritual or something in any way, like, you know, your intuition would be on high, and you might get a chance to get so much information through, like, you know, dreams or like sudden revelations or downloads and so on and so on. So pay attention to this. And the Prince of Wands, he's our Prince of Creativity. That's pretty much universal advice for this new moon, for this full moon eclipse, to embrace your creativity, to embrace your creative spirit, to find the source of inspiration within you. And maybe actually you would find it through working closely with your intuition. The images that come to you, the downloads, the dreams, the kind of ideas, this wave might lead to the fact that you would get the kind of ability to creatively express yourself, which ultimately I would say might be how your second house matters would be enhanced. And also your last card is the Three of Cups. Three of Cups is the friendly reunion with friends. But three is often, three, for example, like Three of Pentacles especially, it is the card of cooperation. It is the card of doing things in a new way, not alone, but through sharing this creativity and your vision with the others and attracting other people to support you on your journey. So I don't know, in case you were thinking, let's say, of starting some creative project, like an online shop, like, you know, with your crafts or something, like, you know, or your own small business, look at it through the prism of your intuition. See how your body reacts to it. See, like, you know, how you feel when you think of it. If you have like good or bad gut feeling, depending on that, act accordingly, because your intuition, it kind of, like, you know, it is in a way the voice of God within us, so it knows better. The universal Prince of Wands with the creative fire for this eclipse in full moon in Sagittarius, and the Three of Cups, it is the spirit of camaraderie. So whenever you find yourself, it's important to remember that you're not alone, that what needs to be celebrated should be celebrated, and that the creativity which you lack and the intuition which came in the cards for you. Other people also might be channels of this. You might get a necessary piece of information through other people. And Three of Cups, it usually means very close people, very good friends, very, like, you know, fun time, yeah, friendly reunion with your friends. And probably this would act in your life in a somehow unexpected way, that your old, like, best friend would somehow help you with something, like, you know, help you to realize something, get closer to what you want. In worst case scenario, that's just advice of inviting a couple of friends to have drinks together and have a good time. That's, after all, that's just a card of bliss, good crack, good times with your friends. So that's it. We've gone through all the 12 signs, and let me know as always what you think in the comments. And have a blessed eclipse season. Yes, we started the eclipse season. I think it's going to be a beautiful moon. I think there is something to be excited about. I think we will all be awakened and shaken in a good way by it. And having said that, I wish you a very good time, very good full moon eclipse, and then I'll see you for the solar eclipse reading in Gemini. So fasten your seatbelts and prepare for the ride. It's going to be fine. So I'll see you in 2 weeks time. I promise not to skip videos. Hope this won't happen again. See you. Bye.